Hi, this is Jeff Hendrickson, and welcome to Dinner with Creatives, where we discuss ideas, collaboration, and action in the worlds of art and design. In this installment, we learn about three New York City-based creatives, each with a unique and fresh perspective on their crafts and how they bring it to the world around them. And in this section of the installment, we will be concentrating on the work of Meredith Pilcher.
Here we go. Meredith is a Brooklyn-based designer and entrepreneur working in both the fashion and fitness industries. She's the art director and founder of Katsicats, a bold company built on collaborations between artists, designers, singers, writers, dancers, and others. And also the creative director of Rowgatta, New York City, a boutique fitness studio delivering a high-intensity, low-impact bootcamp experience. Growing up in Alexandria, Virginia, she graduated from James Madison University with a graphic design degree. After college, she was accepted to her dream program, the Transdisciplinary Design MFA, at the new school, Parsons, in New York City. But instead of attending the new school, she made the decision to dive headfirst into entrepreneurship. She packed her car and moved to New York City, a city saturated with creative talent. That is where she launched Katsicats. It all started with hand-painted apparel, but quickly grew larger into events and concerts. Now, during the COVID-19 era, Katsicats has once again adapted and launched a fashionable face mask collection, of which I am the proud owner of two. Okay. Meredith's creative process is avoid changes along the way. The mission remains the same: design with purpose, design with people you admire, and always remember to enjoy the process. So everybody, I give you Meredith Pilcher. Take it away, Meredith.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. First of all, this is an amazing idea to pull everybody together from many, many places. You guys are all over the US, and it's such a wonderful thing to do during this time. So thank you. And can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. Yep, we got you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So let me screen share. Let me see here.
And I'm turning off video. If you still have video on, I'm turning off video except for the four presenters, okay? All right, there we go. We got you.
Okay. Let's see. I'm so directionally challenged sometimes. Okay. Full screen. So I'm Meredith Pilcher. I'm a designer, founder, and a creative thinker.
We lost your image, Meredith.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Oh, you know what? I bet that might be. Can you see it now?
Yeah, we got you back.
Okay, guys, we might have to keep it on that.
That's cool.
Okay.
Just go
yeah,
there.
it's okay.
That's cool.
Cool. Okay, so I'm the founder of Katsicats and the creative director of Rowgatta. But today, I actually want to talk about my creative process based on like three articles that I wrote about during this time. So I'm, wait, hold on a second. Oh, wait, it's like, for some reason, it's doing this weird thing. Okay. You guys can still see it?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, I'm going to bring my creative process to light and talk about three blog articles that I recently wrote addressing more of a system-oriented solution approach. Just kind of like what I was doing with the Transdisciplinary Design program and had the direction that I wanted to go in originally when I moved to New York. So it's all coming full circle during this time. So I wrote three articles that are currently up on my blog, focusing on transportation, healthcare, and architecture during the COVID-19 pandemic. So first, I wanted to tell you guys about kind of like the steps that I take and my process, kind of like the outline. First, I identify a possibility or problem within a system. So that can be social, economic, political, environmental issues. It can be small scale or large scale. So once I identify a problem, I do research and I dig into kind of this like initial design and I explore the possibilities of what that potential solution could be. from there, if I wanted to take my ideas further, I would gather a team, do the multidisciplinary group, pull them together, and expand upon not only what I know, because I am limited, we're all limited at a certain capacity, right? We want other outlooks, mindsets, different angles of looking at problems, create an even stronger solution, and then implement that solution into a real world application. So during my articles, I focus on just identifying the problem, researching, and initial design. So case study number 1 focused on transportation, redesigning New York City's above ground transportation system to promote social distancing via walk, bike, and electric. So there are 18 million people in New York City, which is just not conducive to social distancing. I know that if many of you living in New York, visiting New York, it's not uncommon for you to bump elbows with somebody and think that's totally fine. Like, it's really so compact. So that's a problem. I wanted to focus on how we as individuals move through the city, and I suggested 3 steps in doing so. So 1 is giving the streets to the people, continuing to shut down roads. Mayor de Blasio actually pledged to shut down 100 miles already of roads during this process to give the people the streets to walk on, to use with like bikes. And there's actually 6,000 miles of roads within New York City. And I highly doubt that they're all being used to transportation capacity. So give people the roads. And then once you have the roads, redesign them with like clearly designated paths and greenery. So give it structure. Once you give it structure, then you can encourage the growth of bike shares and other solo electric micromobility products, which we, before COVID, before shutting down roads, would not have otherwise been able to do. So this is my initial proposal of what Times Square could look like if you shut down the road and put 3 paths, 1 for biking, 1 for walking and running, and 1 for electric. So essentially the bike and the walk are just extensions of what we already have, right? The electric is the new element, and that allows it full expansion. Like, that allows you to implement and bring in full throttle scooters, which are currently illegal, unless you full throttle share scooters, which are illegal, which could not be and could be brought in if we did have these paths. And then also bringing in electric bikes, which would be really cool. So bringing these in, introducing them to our community could be really beneficial in social distancing. So that's up on my blog. Case study number 2. This is talking about local healthcare communication and CityMD's opportunity to lead the COVID-19 communication and support. So I pitched this to the CityMD marketing team on March 5th, 2020, which was a few days after our first case in the city. So I don't know if you guys know, CityMD is unique to New York in the metro area. It's a medical urgent care clinic, and it's about 10 years old and has over 100 locations and 300 providers. It is truly from working with startups for the past couple of years, looking at their company structure, they have the ability to quickly implement change way quicker than hospitals and other medical facilities that already have that hierarchy, right? So that is CityMD. And identifying the problem. So we have, and keep in mind, this was way before the shutdown. This was way before we were even really talking about the coronavirus significantly in New York City. Like, I think a week or so before we had the staging of shutdown. Okay, so obviously the problem is that the virus is sweeping across Asia and Europe in February. And I felt that it was inevitable. A respiratory virus in such a compact city would clearly spread. And the way in order to control the spread and manage fear was going to be with the unification of communication on a national, state, local, and community level. I was particularly interested with the local level. So this is part of the presentation that I sent to them, which is hospitals are the highest level, right? But 80% of the confirmed coronavirus cases were said not to be severe, which meant that they were going to seek neighborhood resources. And with 100 locations, they can not only provide what they do already, which is care when people are sick, but they can provide education, prevention, support, and kindness, relieving fear and anxiety. So I proposed that they could do this with 2 parallel marketing plans. One is prevention marketing and one is support and trauma marketing. So addressing how do we stop the spread? How do we protect each other? What are the symptoms? When should I get help? Where to go? Who's qualified? And just valid, up-to-date statistics. It was such a new virus. It is still a new virus that when we receive information, factual information, it was going to be needed to be presented in a clear and calm and concise way. So that's the prevention. And then the trauma would be obviously like people who had to see family members die, or there was just everything emotional that goes into it. There was going to need to be a lot of support. So with those 2 marketing plans, I suggested partnerships with companies in the city. One was with this company called Outfront Digital Signage. And the digital signage companies already have these LED screens in the subways and in other areas around the city. So by partnering with them, they could update these screens with valid information in real time. Then to bring awareness to the actual location of the city MD. A lot of us, when we're walking through New York, we have tunnel vision, right? It's just what we do. And I walk by my stores all the time and I look up and I'm like, wait, where did this coffee shop come from? So same with City MD. You need something out there in front of the store. I suggested partnering with Purell. This was before the hand sanitizer situation. So that people would see a sign and they would understand that there was clear messaging, visual communication with a sign, but then also an action to do, which is like pumping the hand sanitizer and keeping your hands clean to prevent the spread of the virus. Then also the channel would be to partner with therapy applications as part of that trauma support. So that is up on my blog as well. And then case study number 3, architecture. So this is my newest project that I've been working on. It's still has a lot to go, I think, with the development of it. It's not yet up on my site. This is to the point where I could actually bring in another team to push it even further, potentially as like a business idea. So rethinking architecture in order to enjoy a social distance vacation during COVID. So say 4 couples, 8 people want to get together on a vacation. There still are limitations preventing us from having that certainty. Like, we don't have the virus, we're safe, we can, partake in all of the activities that we always have. it doesn't work with incubation times, with testing results that are delayed, and the lack of tests or the lack of the whole supply chain is messed up with that. And then also just being asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic it doesn't work. So I started, and this came about from me trying to meet up with people that were essential workers or that put me at risk of coming back and like being with my parents during that time. So it was a very like personal draw. So I started identifying what I would be comfortable with in a situation, meeting somebody who we didn't have the time or the resources to get tested and ensure that we didn't have the virus. So separate indoor living spaces, air ventilation, plumbing, those are all ways that have been researched now that the virus could spread. Safe outdoor community activities designed for social distancing, comfortable amenities, personal showers, toilets, all of those things is what I wanted. And then a stress-free environment. So I felt that hotels, rental homes, Airbnbs, motels, and camping, there was nothing that met my 100% criteria. So I decided to design it. I did research, started doing research on modular tiny homes. I thought they were really unique. They're on wheels. They're all like self-sustainable. They have, really what attracted to me most was it has everything that you need. And I have no problem living in a tiny place, but it has everything you need and they're able to move. So the limitations with that, you can play with it. It becomes fun. So my initial designs, this is just some of them, but what does it look like when the tiny houses are next to each other? What does it look like if they start interacting with each other? What if it's more than two? I actually went to a community in Alexandria, Virginia that has modular homes. They're a little bit bigger than these tiny homes, but when I photographed, I came back, I did sketches. They're very Frank Lloyd Wright inspired. Really cool. Check it out. It's Holland Hills
That's a cool neighborhood. I've been
there a
lot. Yeah.
So cool. So cool.
Yeah.
So, and an architect that I had spoke with about this project, he suggested it, and he's, from New York too. So it's a good one.
Yeah.
So I started thinking, I pulled the pieces apart and I said, what happens if I have 5 pieces and 2 of which actually can be attached and detached, depending on the type of the number you have in your party, if you have 1 person, if you have 2 person, but say this would be like a community that everybody would know each other, that you would come together. So 5 modular structures, all on wheels, that would allow for repositioning on the land, and lead to different combinations. You could also take these and move them according to season. So they could be in California, they could be in North Carolina, they could be up in Michigan. It's possibilities are endless. So this is my super rough initial rendering of what 5 modules would look like together. And that each, I'm going to push even more the public outdoor space, because I think that there can be, right now I have this idea of the colors correspond to the house, so that you sit in the chair that's always yours, and that kind of thing. So I'm having a really fun time with this. But yeah, thank you. That is my design thinking.
Very cool. Way to go. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
And way to go bringing that tiny house stuff together at the very last here, because you didn't have that a couple of nights ago.
I didn't have that.
Very, very cool. All right, good deal. So you got in 14 minutes. Excellent.
Sweet.
All right, so we have one comment for you, and this is from Nima. And Nima, I'm just going to unmute yourself and tell Meredith that.
Hey,
Hi.
so I'm not sure how familiar, and we could talk about this offline as well, but I think, first of all, I love that like there's a sustainable systems component to everything you're doing. And also, I think one of the hardest things about creativity is that to make it into a process, right? Because that's what true, like you're a true professional. And I think it's worth acknowledging here. And I thought, when we can talk about online as well, but I'm not, if any people are familiar with Burning Man or how like basically you have sustainable architecture in the desert, right? I mean, some of these concepts would be like, especially the third one would be really helpful in terms of like, as a test environment potentially, maybe not in like the full tiny house scope, but like, people are using containers, for example, and building houses out of that. So, we could talk about that more offline, but just a thought that came up or stimulate conversation here.
Yeah, no, I would love to talk about that, because I think there's a sense of community that we're going to need. Even honest, like Burning Man is all about community. It's about coming together and enjoying each other and feeling free and no stress, not having to worry about anything. And that's part of what the mission was behind it, was to just come and even though it's on a smaller scale,
No, it's microcosms. So.
Micro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about it later. We'll catch up soon.
Okay. I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love
cool.
that.
All right. Dave Markey, unmute yourself, please, and ask away.
Hey, Meredith.
Hi.
So yeah, thanks for sharing all that. I'm cruising around like some of your websites and stuff, and you've got like lots of different ventures and things going on. And so what I was curious about was how if you struggle with, the fear of shipping and putting your stuff out in the world, which I think a lot of artists do. And and if that's a struggle for you, how you deal with it to get all these ideas out there and in front of people.
Yeah. Such a good question.
Because she's a badass, Dave. Essentially, that's what it comes down to. Meredith is just a badass.
Well, thank you. So I think starting Katsicats, which is a whole nother story, I felt, so it's a collaboration company with different artists, singers, dancers, painters, photographers. Miles been doing a ton of work for me for the past couple of years. We've been collaborating together. Actually, he's been shining. That's the right way to say it. And with that, I trained myself to think about it as not, I'm putting my work out. I'm representing a collective of people. And with that, I was just like a portal for it. And I've been able to transition and try to trick my mind in a different way now and just say like, okay, I was able to continue to push it. There's definitely anxiety and a little insecurity about it, but you just, at that point, you're just like, I don't know. Such a good question.
Have you always worked, like, has working on a team always been a part of your process, or is there like a solo practitioner part of your work that you had to, that like, can you function both ways, or do you have to be in a team environment?
I'm a solo worker, actually. I'm a really, I've worked for myself since college. And moved up to New York and pretty much like gained other clients. So I tend to, when I want to get something done, I will lock myself in my room or in the studio and just whatever it takes to get it done, or set a limit, set a time, set a date. And I do really enjoy working by myself, but it starts with that first initial thought, the identifying and then research, like those two first steps that I talked about. It always starts with that, no matter what I do. And then I bring in people. And whether or not an idea is worth bringing in people or not, it's at that time that I make a decision. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Sure.
All right, good deal. So we've got time for one more question. Jude, unmute yourself and take it away.
Hey, Meredith, thank you so much for sharing all that.
Yeah, thank you.
So I have a couple questions. I'll try to make it quick. The first is, with these designs that you're proposing, especially regarding the modular houses, I'm curious whether this is something that you are sort of proposing for right now, for this moment in time, or to be kind of constructed during this moment in time, anticipating the further need for this going forward. And I guess the question there is really, how much do you think that the social changes that we've implemented as a result of COVID are going to stick around?
Will last, yeah. So I think that with the modular homes, they're designed in such a way that can be set within an environment, not necessarily just together. I think that it is transferable past, we get a vaccine, everybody's fine, we move on from this. How can they be used? That's a great question. And the idea of them being transferred from like the beach, they're pop-ups. They could be a pop-up. They can be this, what's the draw to it? It's like, the pop-ups are coming to Austin. You got to book it now, hurry up and like get it before it goes. So there's that type of appeal that you can add to it. And in addition to that, like global warming, I believe, it's a thing, and our coastal lines, like the coast right now, may not be the coast that will be in 10 years. So by instead of buying a beach house, instead of investing in a huge resort, have something like this. And if there's a huge hurricane that's about to wipe out like a mile of the land, pick them up and move them. Take them to Colorado.
I love that idea.
Take them to Austin for South.
Take them to Austin. If it's too hot in Austin, take them to Omaha. I don't know.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I thank you for answering that. That's a really cool idea, envisioning how many scenarios those can be useful in.
Yeah.
My other part too is that I remember Jeff mentioned that for your company, Katsicats, which I did a little snooping around on, you do concert events and you work with performing artists. And as a musician, performing artist myself, I'm naturally curious about what that looks like.
Yeah, totally. The performing artist part really came with our leather jacket series. And
as it would.
Right. And when I was like really, really active in all of this, when you're in the right place at the right time, things come to you. I mean, I met Nima, who's on here, by getting on a bus and coming down to DC after talking to him on the phone through a mutual friend in New York. So things were happening like that, where I was meeting different artists. And at that time, I had an artist approach me and I said, do you want to make a leather jacket? In that same week, I went to go see a concert and I thought, oof, like, love his music. What would that look like? What would that art look like? So I called him up. I said, I want to put you in a leather jacket that represents your song that I heard at your concert. My artist is going to paint this. We're going to get it photographed. Let's get you in a recording studio singing your song. Let's do a music video. It started with that. Then it turned into the next artist. We ended up, it just went so fast. We had a gala with sponsored by Reebok. And it was such a, now I don't know exactly when we're going to get back to that here with the COVID, but it was just mass collaborations centered around one piece of apparel that was put on a singer.
So can we see the leather jackets?
Yeah.
Where can we see that?
Out. If you go to Katsicats Katsicats.com. Here, I'll put it in the chat because I know we gotta get to Caitlin's wonderful stuff too.
Yeah, we gotta get moving so that we give everybody their shot, and then we're gonna open this back up again once we get there. All right, so cool. There you go. Katsicats.com. Oh, sorry, Rado. It's Katsica, not Ka. Sorry, I spelled that wrong for you. All right, so excellent. Thank you very much for those great questions, everybody.